you don't really know who you are or what you are until you put a really big challenge in front of you.
Fear is an asset and ally here to help you be magnificent.
This crazy, silly, stupid idea to run across the Sahara Desert.
You did make it this time, but you said if you didn't make it, you would try again and again.
Everybody's connected to nature, connected to music, to their families, and now we're going to build a world that doesn't have racism and war and starving kids.
I kept telling myself, run at me, and just keep smiling.
All right, I'm recording. Jake, thanks for making time this morning. I know it's early for you.
Yeah, no problem. I've been up for a little while. Wish I'd been up earlier.
Yeah, there's so much I want to ask you, but just to start us off, can you just tell people who you are and where you are right now?
Sure. My name is Jake Brown. I am in Springfield, Eugene, Oregon area right now. That's in the Willamette Valley. I actually came here on kind of a working vacation. I was working on a web project of my own, and one day started to smell smoke, and I stepped outside, and it was like walking into Mordor. Like, everything was dark and glowing. People were fleeing. And I started researching, found out there's these wildfires, that were spreading all up and down the West Coast. And I'm looking at the map, realizing, shoot, I'm kind of in the middle of it. So my initial reaction, like everybody's, was, well, I'm going to get as far away from this as possible. And I immediately relocated to another friend's place in Eugene on the far side of the McKenzie River, to get away from it, to be safer, and set up my shop. And I was getting back into my own work, and I was just relaxing on the couch, and my friend had the news on, and I started seeing things about like families. I started seeing these calls for help on the news, like, can anybody tell me where my son is, that kind of thing. And I realized that my job was to come back into Springfield and help with the relief efforts. So that's what I've been doing for the last week. And it's been an incredible thing to witness, all these people fleeing from these fires, the few people who are able to step up and begin to support the evacuees as they're coming through. And I've just been in the middle of it, helping as I can. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
So, okay, there's a lot I want to dive into there. Usually, you've been on the podcast before, so you might remember this is probably a lot different than the first time you were on the podcast when we ran around Central Park. Right now, I am walking in New York City, which is probably like another universe to where you are right now. There's some construction going on around me, as you might be able to hear. I'm going to try to walk away from that. But usually what I like to start with is to ask if you could visually describe where it is that you're walking right now. You're not walking right now for obvious reasons. Well, one, it's like 7 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning out there where you are, and you woke up early to do this with me. But also it's probably not great for you to be walking outside right now, and I have a lot better reception in wherever it is that you are. So can you describe what it's like outside of where you are right now? Like if you were to walk out your door, what would you be seeing right now?
If I were to walk out my door right now, what I'd be seeing is pea soup fog, but it's not fog. It is smoke from hundreds of thousands of acres of burning America. And that's what I see when I walk outside right now. I see the embers, the ash of my country falling down. That's what I see when I walk outside. Are
there people around?
There are, yeah. Oh gosh, Gene. There's thousands and thousands of people, extra people here now. The streets, ironically, look pretty empty most of the time. But if you find the evacuee sites, if you go to the hotels that are accommodating evacuees, you'll see the throngs of people that are starting to show up in places like Eugene, Springfield, places that have been deemed, safe zones where evacuees can come for resources. So yeah, there's a lot of people around, but like me, they're trying to stay out of the smoke, the air. The air quality has been in the red flag zone for over a week. Like everyone's being told, don't go outside, you'll die. You know, I myself
when
have
you
been
go
out
outside,
working.
do you wear what kind of a mask do you wear when you go outside?
I do have access to N95 masks because of the volunteer work I've been doing. They're limited, so I myself have been using bandanas and the cheaper versions because there's children and elderly that are coming through, and those people need the better masks. But certainly the air quality is bad enough that you want to have, you know, an N95 or like a respirator. Your basic cloth mask isn't cutting it. Like when I blow my nose, I just immediately choke on like the fine dust, the fine ashes that have been accumulating, you know, my nostrils, and that's all I can smell. As soon as I blow my nose, all I smell is ash, yeah.
How close are you to the actual fires?
I've been within just a few miles. Right now, I haven't taken a look at a fire map in a while, so I don't know. See if I can find it right now. I don't know where the fronts currently are, but where I'm sitting right now has been easily within 5 miles of the nearest blazes. There's actually multiple fires in this area, and some of them have, none of them are contained. Some of them have been stopped at certain choke points, and so they're spreading other directions. Yeah, this is a fairly safe location. We're in this big valley, so you know there are men and women like literally standing between me and flames right now, and it's, you know, it's thanks to them that it stopped where it is.
But there's what between you and flames?
There's literally men and women like on the ground between me and the flames.
What does that mean that they're between you and the flames? Are they like putting out the flames, or they just happen to be there? And like, what does that mean?
Wildland firefighters is who I'm referring to. Wildland firefighters who are professionals who are experienced in combating fires in remote places. They're hotshot crews, engine crews, smoke jumpers, dozers. I mean, there's tanker planes dropping chem on this stuff out there. So that's what I mean when I say there's men and women between me and the flame. I mean, there are selfless people out there who are putting themselves in harm's way to make us safe here. And I feel like, yeah, slight tangent. I feel compelled to do whatever I can from back here in support of that, because there are people who are actually, you know, putting their life in danger right now.
Well, I know when I first saw that you were out there, it was because I saw you put a post on Facebook saying that you wanted to get out and do what you could to, you know, like dig ditches and actually fight the fires. So, were you like, when you went, how did you like try to volunteer for that? Did you like call up like the fire department and say, hey, how can I get out there and like start putting these fires out? Or did you try to do that?
Yeah, I started calling and messaging anything that had like Willamette Valley or Eugene or Lane County plus fire attached to it. I just started searching and reaching out, and basically I can't get through the bureaucratic red tape. I'm actually a former wildland firefighter. I've taken the courses. I've been certified. They just expired.
Really? I didn't know that. When did you do that?
Back in like 2007, when I was living in New Mexico on Bermejo Park Ranch, I was part of their private volunteer wildland fire department. They have a 600,000 acre spread, so they have to like provide their own crews and stuff. Largest fire I've ever fought was the West Fork fire, which is just around 40,000 acres. You know, I think it lasted about a month, and we had like over 1,000 people on that. It was still hard to maintain, and it was very dangerous. Here they're talking about hundreds of thousands of acres and just a few hundred firefighters to fight it. So, yeah.
But when you volunteered for whatever reason, like you weren't allowed to actually get out there and fight the fires.
That's correct. Now, I'm taking a big risk by talking about this part of it, but I'm going to accept that risk because I think this is important to shed light on this fact. The first night that I went to the evac site, I got there in the afternoon. I started volunteering. There were a lot of other, like, this isn't an organization. This isn't the Red Cross that is doing this. This is people like me who aren't willing to sit by and let this stuff happen without doing what we can. And I'm not alone. There are a lot of good people who are helping to put this all together and hold it together. This sort of emergency situation also attracts groups of people who have been operating and are drawn to, smoke and confusion. Oh boy, I'm putting some nails in my coffin right now. But on that first night, the Antifa was there, and other organizations, and the people who actually handed me the card that had the contact info on it for the fire company that I called and was told would give me a position was handed to me by somebody from one of those groups, and I just was like, okay, whatever, like, you're not causing trouble here, you're just a human being handing me a resource. Looking back, I realized that it might actually have been intended to, get people like me ticked off with the fire departments, because it did seem like they were letting things happen and they were refusing to accept support from people. So there's a little bit of confusion about what's going on, because not everybody is telling the truth, and not everybody is here to help people and fight fires. I'm not entirely sure if I actually received an invitation from the fire company, or if it was a manipulative maneuver on part of the group.
So, but anyway, you didn't let that stop you. You're finding some other ways to help, which I actually want to get into, but I want to take a little bit of a detour because I feel like I forgot to give people some background on you. You mentioned that you just happened to be out there on what you called a working vacation, but you are not from Oregon. You're from New York, but where have you been like the last, can you just give people a little bit of your background?
Sure. So in 2012, I read a book called Born to Run that got me into the idea of barefoot running and minimalism. And I became slightly obsessed with it. So I started running without shoes, right? I started running without shoes, and I moved out of my last apartment into my truck, and just started traveling around, experimenting with the nomadic way of life as I was training. Yada yada. I was invited to be a support driver for a friend who wanted to run across the country, and we raised some money beforehand. Drove out to California, and she began her run with me as her support driver. She ran out of money almost instantly and was going to quit. But I needed something to do for a few months, so I didn't let that happen. I started making calls to hotels and restaurants, and wound up getting us an insane amount of support, particularly donations of rooms and meals, in exchange for taking pictures with the staff and putting them on social media and writing reviews. We get to the end of this run from California to Connecticut, and I stood in the Atlantic Ocean with her, looked back across the continent, and I thought of all these thousands of people and hundreds of businesses that had supported our effort to kickstart her nonprofit cause. And nobody expected anything from us after that. Our job was done, but I just saw this network for what it was and the potential that was there. And so I spent the next few years traveling the country by foot and thumb. And when I say that I traveled the country by foot, I mean I actually went to California, dipped my toes in the Pacific Ocean, and then ran barefoot from California to New York.
Entirely barefoot?
entirely barefoot. I'm, if I may brag a little bit, I'm the only human being known to have touched the continent from one sea to the other, which is a pretty cool experience. Like, I actually know what this nation feels like because I touched it from one side to the other. And I know the people in this country because I slept in there on your couches. I slept on your couch, Gene. Like, and I did that with hundreds of people across the country. So besides that, I have hitchhiked back and forth across the United States numerous times. I ran from Mexico to Canada in 2018, which was a breeze. So I've done like the thing but really, like, by the time I got to that project, like, I was such a pro at being a nomadic bum ultra runner that, it was easier to sleep in ditches than to take the time and negotiate free rooms.
Wow.
But those experiences and like the knowledge that comes with having just casually slept on the side of the road and then got up and run 2 marathons in a row the next day, those sorts of experiences are what let me do more in these sorts of emergency situations than other people would think to be able to do. It's not that I'm capable of more, it's just, when you slept in a ditch, got up and run multiple marathons, that a person doesn't necessarily need all these extra amenities to be well. So I'm traveling the country by foot and thumb. I'm doing my cool little projects, but I couldn't do all that without other people helping me. Otherwise, I would have had to have a job, save my money, plan these things. To spend $50, I would have had to, make $1,000 because I would have had to sustain myself in the meantime. People empowered me to keep going by picking me up off the side of the road, by giving me a couch to sleep on, by sending me donations, and it kept me going. I always said that if I ever missed a meal, if I ever had to skip a meal, I would quit and go back to a normal way of life. And not only did I not ever miss a meal, but I actually started to make a career out of it. And and that's what I've been doing for the last few years.
I'll say, like, you've been, and just so to give people a little bit of more context about our friendship, you're one of the first charity milers, and probably in the first 100 people to download the app. And I remember seeing this guy Barefoot Jake tweeting his charity miles, and I always it would make my day. And then we met just by coincidence at this race in Rhinebeck, and you've been such an important part of my life and inspiring me to think more resourcefully through the years. And when you ran across the country barefoot, I was honored that I happened to be out in California in Anaheim on the first day. And on the first day, you ran from Huntington Beach to Anaheim, crashed with me in my hotel room. And like literally on the first day of your trip, your backpack broke. By the way, this backpack had like everything, like he was carrying, this backpack probably weighed like 75 pounds. So when Jake is running barefoot across the United States, he's not just like running, he's carrying like an extra person on his back as he's running. And on the first day, his backpack broke. And, he's got so much integrity that he wasn't going to let that like derail his journey. So like he still figured out, without breaking the spirit of I'm running across the country barefoot, he still figured out a way to like get that fixed and taken care of and keep going. And then on the last couple days, as he came across the George Washington Bridge, I had the honor of being with him, with you, Jake. He slept at my apartment. Next day, Jake ran out to Jacob Riis Park in Queens, New York, and jumped in the Atlantic Ocean. And that was one of the greatest things I've ever seen, is you finishing that journey. It was just incredible. And then the next day after that, you ran the New York City Marathon with me totally barefoot.
Yeah.
So just incredible for me to share just a tiny, tiny, tiny little bookend of that journey that you had. But in that journey and all the other things that you've done, you've developed a certain set of skills and a mindset of resourcefulness that, well, one other thing which I'll say just about you, Jake, just so that people can kind of get a picture. The reason that I was in Anaheim on when Jake happened to be starting his trip. It just happened to work out that I was out there because I was out there for this thing called the Natural Foods Expo, trying to get sponsors for charity miles. And the Natural Foods Expo is this giant expo at the Anaheim Convention Center where like every natural food company is there, like trying to get Whole Foods to pick them up and, you know, displaying their stuff. So Jake trots on out from Huntington Beach to Anaheim, crashes with me for a couple days in the hotel. We get him into the expo, and as you're going around the expo, all these food companies are like giving away food samples. And so Jake, you know, he's got to run across the country. What an opportunity to get some like food for his journey. And so all these companies are giving you food, and then instead of you keeping it, you went out and started giving it to the homeless people outside the convention center. Here you are about to start this insane journey, and you could have used all of those bars and all of that food that people were giving you, and you're like, no, I'm just going to give it away to all the homeless people out here. I don't need it. You have this like mindset about you, this way about you, which is just truly, truly incredible. So over this journey, you developed a certain amount of skills and resourcefulness and mindset that I think make you uniquely, it's kind of like in a movie where like something bad happens and the superhero just happens to be there. But like you just happen to be in Oregon as this is happening. What brought you to Oregon? Like, how did you end up getting there? Like, why were you in Oregon on this working vacation that you just happened to be at the scene of the crime when this is going down?
Oh, it's a long story, like everybody's. It's COVID related. My partner and I had been traveling, for the winter. We're both gardeners, and we had a successful gardening season last year in upstate New York. So we went on our first road trip together as a couple for the winter, and had every intention of going back to work. And like I've been kind of toying with the idea of going back to a more conventional lifestyle anyway. And right towards the end of our journey, when we were starting to look at routes and timeframes back east, we'd been staying in these wilderness areas, and we started like coming out for supplies. And each time we came out for supplies, I remember the first time I went into a Starbucks and they refused to refill our thermoses, because it's because of COVID. I'm sure it won't last long. And like, COVID, what coronavirus? What are you talking about? And every time we come out of the wilderness, there'd be more and more restrictions. And finally, like I said, okay, enough's enough. Like, we're going to get stuck out here. So we couldn't get back to New York. So we went and we, wound up, this is going to sound weird, kind of out of context. We wound up at this like Buddhist monastery in the mountains of southern Arizona for a while.
That sounds like the perfect place to ride out COVID.
You'd think so, but I'll tell you, the meditation community is a lot like the running community, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
So we worked there for a little while, volunteered there for a little while, and stayed in this beautiful spot in Cochise Stronghold in southern Arizona. Then we left there, and we're it's kind of hard to explain because like a lot of it's personal story, but
yeah, sure, no problem.
But it's certainly it's relevant because the story of how we got someplace is significant. I think. How would I explain it? I needed a place to work. I've been trying to build I've been trying to turn this network that I mentioned before. I'm standing in the ocean, I'm looking back, I'm seeing this network for what it is. I've been trying to turn it into more than just Barefoot Jake for a really long time. And this year, because everything's been shut down, we were stuck in one place. My partner was getting the government stimulus checks. So we had a little extra cash on hand and didn't have to spend as much of it as the average American. So I took advantage of that, and I started an LLC, bought a bunch of websites and really big web packages, and have just like been holed up. I've just been holed up in like little trailers and people's garages and stuff for the last couple of months, putting myself through free online school, teaching myself web development. And I've been amassing every skill that I can possibly cram into my head that's relevant to web design. So I came to Eugene as like a last ditch effort to like get my web project done all in one big shot. And some friends were willing to rent me this garage for like dirt cheap. So that's how I got to Eugene, and why I was here is because it was just like the cheapest option I had to focus on developing my business. And I was actually on like a 2-day bender, just like coding, developing. And so I hadn't even really seen the outside when I was smelling smoke, and stepped out and saw how the world had changed. Yeah. So.
But it turns out this thing that you're developing is somewhat useful.
Dude, it's incredible
for what you're trying to do to help here. So what was the thing that you said you have this network, you built this incredible network of people that are supporting you as an ultra runner to go across the country, and you wanted to turn that into, and I'm asking a leading question here because I kind of know a little bit about the answer, but you wanted to turn that into something else that could help other people pursue their passions, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm following you. So, so like the core of this project that I've been working on, like for what I've been doing for my interest, I want to support people who are athletes, artists, and adventurers promoting global community and conscious living. I want to support these people who are doing it different, the ones who, are saying like, this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm doing it, instead of like, how are other people doing it? I fit the mold. I'm looking for people who are breaking the mold, who are redefining the mold, because those people are the ones who they're the innovators, the pushers, they're the people coming up with the new ideas. They're not just the one. And there's nothing wrong with this. Like, there's a place for everybody, and everybody's story is unique and significant. But my interest is in the people who are like coming up with the next thing, through trial and error, and their willingness to take risks. Those people are hard to sponsor. I know, because I'm one of those people, and I've asked for sponsorships. And that's why I developed the Bare Soul Project for myself, was because I couldn't get money from sponsors, because, I was a dreadlock, barefoot hippie sleeping in ditches, and I wasn't very marketable to them. But I needed to do the work I was doing. I thought it was important, and other people thought it was important. So I found a way to make it happen. And that's a really cool story, but I could have done so much more if somebody had just given me what I needed. I want to be that somebody to the next person, because I figured out how to get these extra resources. I figured out how to do it without money. I figured out how to do it with social networking. And the next person doesn't have to go through all that trial and error, because I already figured it out, and I can share it with them. Now, how do I make, So I've been trying to create, I have not been trying, I've created a website and a very basic app that, through which I can provide direct support to adventure athletes, because I know what adventure athletes need. And all they really need is gift cards and a tent. So I've developed a model where athletes, adventurers, artists, people in this network will register with the website and download this app. And through it, they will have access to gift cards specific to their profile and their needs, which are scannable at point of entry, and we control, manage, own the gift cards, so we can refill them as needed. I have a model, a theoretical model for how that pay structure would work, which is kind of irrelevant. But so we have this like unique skill set and a knowledge of the types of resources and tools needed in a survival situation in the context of adventure running, but that happens to be the same sort of gear and lifestyle and processes that are conducive to any emergency survival situation. The same backpack that I use to run across the country is something that an evacuee can use right now. The same gift cards that will, put food in a transconner's backpack, will put food in an evacuee's backpack. So there's a lot of crossover, and I realized, oh shoot, well, I can just kind of switch labels. And so instead of athletes and artists and adventurers, I just insert evacuees. And this thing that I've been trying so hard to get off the ground for like my own sake, all of a sudden I'm I wish this situation didn't exist, but all of a sudden I'm finding that these things that I've been working on are extremely relevant and useful, and they can help these people who need this help right now, because I can get these cards to them, because all it is the barcode. That's all they need. They just need a scannable barcode. So I can get those to people without even having to meet them. I just need somebody to screen, of course, because otherwise, I hate to be thinking like this, but otherwise people are going to take advantage of it. So you need to be screened. But once screened, all I have to do is get them that barcode, and then they can walk into a store and they can start buying stuff. It's as simple as that. But I need the money for it.
Where do you get the gift cards from?
Online, e-gift cards, places like Walmart. This all started with Starbucks, by the way, if I may make a little shout out here. A few years ago, I let my ID expire intentionally. So for like 4 years, I was traveling the country without photo identification. I couldn't get a bus. I couldn't get a plane. I could not get a train. I legally couldn't even get, well, not legally, but like technically I couldn't get a hotel room because most hotels won't let you in. Ironically, if I tried to rent a hotel room, they would card me and not let me in. But if someone introduced me as Barefoot Jake and I had a reporter walk in with me or something, there was no question asked. They'd like give me a bottle of champagne and invite me in. So, my message there would be like, quit blaming the man. We are the man.
Right.
I digress.
So the gift cards, like, where are you getting the gift cards from? You're getting them from stores. Do the stores just give you the gift cards, or are you collecting donations and then buying the gift cards?
Everybody's got a heart in their chest. Everybody wants to help. Most of this world is held up with very rigid infrastructure, and everything has red tape around it. So places like Walmart, Safeway, Albertsons, they want to help. They truly do. I know that these individuals want to help, but they can't just give everybody cards. And so they want to help me, but they're saying, absolutely, we will give you anything you need. Let us know your what's your 501c3 license, and send us these and those credentials, and we'll get back to you in a week. You have to send this to our corporate office. Meanwhile, I'm standing here watching children and elderly come through the evac site, and I realize that they don't have time for that. So I've taken what little money I had on hand, and I went and started buying gift cards. And I've already put, it's not I'm saying I because I'm the one who's like made the transactions, but we as a team have been putting people in hotels and giving people gift cards left and right as best we can. But yeah, I had to open up my own coffers, the money that I've been saving for my new business. And as that was running out, I've been reaching out to, the immediate community, my friends and family. I'm literally begging the nation, like America, like, please give us money so that we can help these people. That's where I'm getting the money for this stuff from. I've had friends already who are pledging like $1,000 a piece to this. Like I've got funds waiting to clear. They're going to make a huge difference, but it's never going to be enough, because you can send me $1,000, but I'm going to meet 1,000 people today, and each of them needs like $200, right? So there's never going to be but yeah, that's where I'm getting the money from, is from us, from me, from you, from anybody. And Gene, you already sent a donation. Thank you. So I put a group of 3 adults and 2 dogs into a hotel for the last couple of nights. And it costs about $120 a night. And absolutely, people like you together have donated enough that was possible. And I had money left over for gift cards for another family of 3, a husband and wife and their adult son. And they're coming today to pick up physical gift cards because the app is like just scotch behind where I need it to be. So like we're making a difference. We are making a difference, and that gave that group enough time. Those 2 nights in a hotel gave them enough time to make their next plan. So I can't keep paying $120 a night for everybody, or maybe that's what I need to do. And I'm trying to figure that out right now. Is like, do I need to be focusing on individual cases, or do I need to be trying to like send as much help to every like point that I possibly can? Because we all want to help everybody, but we can't. And it seems like my place, like the Bare Soul Project's place, is to help people who are falling through the gaps in the bigger systems and the bigger organizations. And those gaps exist for really necessary, understandable reasons. That being, you're going to get caught on these hard cases. You're going to get caught in the cases that don't fit the mold. And if you spend too much time on them, it's going to cost everybody. You're not going to be able to do anything for anyone if you try to do everything for everyone. So people fall through the gaps. And it's often people who were, quote, homeless to begin with, unquote, which, by the way, is a trigger phrase for me. I've heard that way too many times from people who I respect very much, but whose worldviews, I believe, are limited and flawed, because they're saying things like that. And there's a lot of that happening out here. And people, like the group that I put into that hotel room before there, a couple of them were actually homeless, making little air quotes here to begin with, but they're not hurting anybody. They're not on drugs. They just, they don't have jobs. And for whatever reason, whatever you might call it, limitation or whatever, they're not in mainstream society, but they're still living, breathing beings who like take care of the world around them. But when they went to the Red Cross wouldn't help them because they didn't fit the mold. And when I met these people, they were crying, sitting on the side of the sidewalk, on the side of the evacuation site here in Eugene, Springfield, and they were crying. I asked them, like, how are you getting help? They said, we're not. We can't. Like, nobody will help us. Put them in a hotel room.
Wow.
I can only do that until the money runs out. We can all only. I don't want to sound desperate here, but we're kind of desperate. We can only do so much, and we've done so much already. We know what to do, but we need the resources to do it. And people ask, I'm sorry, maybe I should let you ask the questions and I should answer them.
Keep going.
Okay. So we know what to do, and we're here. Like, people say, why should we send you money? Is this about you? No, it's not. It's about, we're just the tools that are present here right now. Forget who I am, what my background is. Just consider that, I'm a person with a working brain who is here on the ground in this disaster zone. I am 0.8 miles from one of the largest evac sites in this region, and I have knowledge that can save money and put money where it needs to be. That's why people should send money to people like me, and not to these big organizations that are failing. I don't want to take a political stance here, but the Red Cross has abandoned us. They've actually caused more problems than they've been able to help us. They'll send a couple of people to a site, and those people just don't do anything. They'll get a few people, a few rooms, and they'll promise so much more, and they'll misinform people. They'll say, go to this site to get this resource. We have personnel at that site. And then time and time again, those evacuees are coming back to us now angry and now not trusting us because these big organizations are just jerking them around. I realize it's not their intention, but they're creating so much confusion because the scope of this disaster, this crisis, is beyond what you guys are comprehending back east. It's very real. People have died. Tens of thousands of people are evacuated and displaced right now. Big organizations are trying, but they're failing. And the problem there, I'm not faulting them for failing. I'm blaming them for not asking for help from grassroots movements. I'm blaming them for not letting us in I'm blaming them for trying to control these situations that they cannot control. And we've been pulling this stuff together. It's a bunch of strangers down there at the evac site right now, people who didn't know each other until last week. And they just showed up and then like, okay, well, what now? Who's in charge? Nobody's in charge. Okay, hey, you got a shiny vest and a walkie-talkie. Will you tell me what to do? And then it grew from there. And that's why we need the nation to step up. And I go on social media, and I've been torpedoing myself left and right here. I've lost so many friends in the last week because I'm telling it like it is, and I'm telling you right now, America as a whole, we as a nation have to take care of these people, because these people are us. They are our nation. These are our neighbors, our family. And right now it's their homes burning. What if it's your home tomorrow? Now I've got a daughter in St. Louis, Missouri, and she's 2,000 miles away. If these fires were in St. Louis, I would not only hope that aid would come to her, I would expect it. I would outright expect that every single person in that community would be out there trying to put out the fires, trying to find clothes and resources for people who have been displaced. And everybody feels that way when it's them and it's their family. But when it's just something on social media, something on the news, we live in this world where like everything is entertainment. The most important things in our lives have become entertainment. Dating is done on Tinder, and like meals are ordered online. And I feel like we're forgetting that there's a real world out there and there's real people behind all this. I feel like this crisis is being very largely ignored, or at least underrated on the national level. We need you to pay attention. Like, I'm one person, dude. I'm burning out. I'm really burning, and so are other people here. So we're cracking. Those of us who are keeping this together, because it's like half a dozen people with tens of thousands of evacuees coming through, and when I can't count the number of comments I've deleted because they were breaking my heart, from people who I thought were good people. And I'm posting on Facebook just begging for money. And these people are taking more time to try to put me in my place than it would take for them to go on GoFundMe or PayPal and just send me $10. They'll take 10 minutes to rant and not 5 minutes to make a contribution that will literally save someone's life. I cried the other day because I heard on the radio that we had a busload of kids coming through and we were trying to figure out where to put them.
There's not really sure what next question I should ask her, like how I can kind of respond to what you're saying, because there's a lot in there, and clearly you're literally in the center of it, and there's a lot of emotions that I'm sure you and everyone out there must be experiencing in a very heightened way that people like me here in New York aren't experiencing. But I can put myself, just a few months ago when the coronavirus was first hitting and New York was kind of a disaster zone, and I'd walk outside and it was like the apocalypse. I'm standing on 3rd Avenue right now. 4 or 5 months ago, I could have went down to the middle of the street and lied down and taken a nap, because it was like a ghost town. There was nobody here, no cars, no people, and like a real sense of fear and desperation, and not knowing like how we're gonna come together. We need, kind of maybe a similar feeling to what you're feeling and what's going on out there. I'm sure it's not totally the same, but I think, one of the things that maybe I'm feeling in response to what you're saying is that, the big organizations, I think that people do, like you said earlier, like they do want to help. They just might not be able to give the right help that is needed. And it probably takes a whole ecosystem of people helping, some big, some small, some large institutions, the government, grassroots people like you filling in the cracks where they happen. I've been thinking a lot about resilience over the last 5 months with everything that we've been going through as the world, not to mention our country. And I think about resilience as being diversity. Like a resilient ecosystem is a diverse ecosystem.
I like the way you said that.
Right. And like, you know, if you have like a monoculture of crops, so you have like a field of one crop and like a pest comes, it can wipe out the whole field. But if it's a diverse culture of crops and like one pest isn't going to wipe the whole thing out, it's a diverse ecosystem. Or when you build the levees up in a certain way and like a flood comes in and it breaks the levees, like you're going to have a huge flood. But if like the way that nature happens, you have like, you know, marshlands and tall grasses and trees, and it kind of fills in the ecosystem in a diverse way, then it's not going to be as susceptible to a hurricane or to a flood as if it was a diverse ecosystem. And I feel like, you know, one of the things that we need when confronted with a challenge like the fires or COVID or anything else, any of the other challenges which are, you know, right in our face right now, is more of a diverse ecosystem of people helping. That some of it's going to be, like I said, large organizations like the Red Cross, which I believe do heroic work. One of our other members who you probably know, Jules Daigle, is a volunteer with the Red Cross, and she's always out there helping people, so I can see that firsthand.
The Red Cross does really good work.
It takes the government, it, you know, which is why I believe that we need to fund the government. And it takes people like you who are on the grassroots level, on the ground, finding the people who are, like you said, falling through the cracks for one reason or another. You know, it takes a lot. And the other thing that I was thinking about in response to what you're saying is kind of metaphorically, well, and I know that it can be upsetting when you put something out on Facebook and people don't help, because like they can help. But what I've realized, you know, through Charity Miles is that everybody does want to help, but for a lot of understandable reasons, as you said earlier, like we all have our own fires in our lives.
Yeah.
And it's hard to see past that sometimes. You know, we're caught up in paying the rent, which is real, you know, in sending our kids to school, which is real, in, you know, our own health, which is real. Like everybody has their own fire in their life. And it's not a fire like the fire that you're experiencing or having your home burned down and you have to evacuate. It's not that type of a crisis, which is certainly an order of magnitude different. But, you know, when you're given a bad diagnosis from the doctor, or you lose your job, or the economy is crazy right now and you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, we all kind of have our own fires in our lives, and kind of we all have to think about how do we help each other as much as we have to think about how are we helping ourselves. Like this diverse ecosystem is going to really requires us all to be more communitarian, and I really respect and admire how you do that at really like another level of selflessness, where you do genuinely always try to help other people when you would think that you're the one that needs a lot of help. I mean, there you are barefoot walking across the country and you're going to sleep in a ditch. Like you would think that you're the one that needs help, but there you are giving away food to other people who need the help more than you. And I've always you know, really admired your commitment to that, and I admire you for stepping up to this challenge in the way that you have. And I'm grateful for all that you do, not just for Charity Miles, but for other people and for me. So I want to thank you for that.
I'd like to say that you know, when people like me are pulling strings and trying to get, you know, that extra dollar out of our audience, you know, we push, and we you know, we consciously use tactics that we think are going to get people to donate, and often that rubs some people the wrong way. But I hope that the audience is following, you know, folks like me, you know, who are trying to advocate for like evacuees and trying to raise this money. I hope they read, you know, the posts and the articles, you know, these passionate pieces, and they recognize when it does or doesn't apply to them. Because like you said, we all have our own fires, and most people are doing what they can. Like when we're reaching out and saying like, hey, like, you know, we need people to pay more attention, we need people to take this seriously, and we've got a specific kind of thing. And it's really not about the audience, it's about the need for more. Like, we recognize that people have already sacrificed, we recognize that people have already donated. And like, Gene, you've already donated, but if I think I can get another dollar out of you, I'm going to ask for it, because it's not for me, it's for these people that need it. And that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Well, you know, another thing that I was thinking about real quickly, just, I don't know if this is real quickly or not, this might take us down another road, but one of the other things that I was thinking about is, like I said, the skills that I'm going to kind of answer my own question too, kind of take us down, but the skills that you've developed of resourcefulness are truly incredible. Like, you figured out how to go with nothing across the United States by yourself and figure out a way to get, you know, a free meal at every restaurant, to get a hotel room to stay in. If you didn't have a hotel room to stay in, to sleep very comfortably in a ditch on the side of the road. Like, you really figured out how to do, I remember you told me something like you lived off of like a couple $100s a month. It's like,
Yep.
How does he do that? Right. Like, and it was one of the things that I was thinking about in my head is like, how could you teach that level of resourcefulness to more people so that it wasn't solely dependent on you just getting money, right? Like, how could you share that level of resourcefulness with more people so that it wasn't, you know, like they say, like, teach a man to fish versus give him a fish. And I think that could be really interesting. But then, like I said, I was going to answer my own question in that you develop those skills over a lifetime. And you can't expect somebody whose house just burned down to learn those skills in a week to be able to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was thinking about this with COVID. You know, people talk about resilience, like, oh, we need to be resilient, and you know, everybody needs to be resilient in this time. You don't develop resilience in the moment that you need it. You develop resilience years in advance before the moment that you need it. And I feel like just one thing that I've been really thinking a lot about over the last several months is that I feel like we as a people need to develop a lot more resilience for the next crisis that happens, the next fire, the next COVID. We need to take the challenge that we have now, the challenges that we have now, and use them to teach ourselves and to prepare ourselves for the next one, because there will be a next one. And I think that if you would be able to kind of lend some of your wisdom, your knowledge, your skills, your resourcefulness to teach other people how to be more resilient and more resourceful, that in many ways, like, you know, not just in this current moment where obviously the gift cards and the immediate relief is really necessary, but being able to help people become more resilient and resourceful for the next challenge could be really, really impactful. I'm not sure if you've put any thought into that.
I've been considering how I might share some of these skills more directly with people, possibly doing like workshops at the evacuation site. Honestly, that thought just occurred to me. So thank you for putting that seed in my head, because I could potentially, or my team could be doing workshops on site there to give people necessary skills in the moment. That's an awesome idea. Also, though, I'm sitting here in this room, and like when I left my friend's place, you know, yesterday, I forgot to grab my plate and like silverware that I usually carry with me. I forgot some basic essentials because I was trying to hold a million things together in my head. You know, I got this room and there's 2 beds in it. And I decided, you know, I'm going to save these beds. So I'm sleeping on the floor right now, so that these beds are clean in case the rest of the organizational team wants to come in and rest, or in case, like one of the cases I'm working on right now, I don't have enough money on hand. I got money coming in, but it's not clearing fast enough. So I can't justify paying for another night, you know, for them. But I've got these beds here. I'm like, well, I can let people in. But the way I'm living, the way I'm able to just sleep on the floor, or like last night, I was like hungry and it was too late for me to order anything. but I have packets of tuna and stuff. And I realized, oh shoot, I forgot my plate. I forgot my silverware. So I went into the bathroom and got the soap dish, and that became my plate. And I just squeezed out the tuna, from the packet into the soap dish, and used the wooden stirring sticks as chopsticks to eat it, and that was fine. I know that I don't need fresh cooked food in an emergency situation. I can. Sorry, I just got a text from one of the leads over at the evac site. I don't know his last name, but there's this guy, Josh, over there who refuses to be called a leader, but he is the one who is organizing and holding all this together. So I hope someday to know more about this guy so I can tell you more about him and get him on the show. So yeah, the way I'm able to just do this, anybody can be doing this, and like I'm living like an evacuee, and it's nothing to me, but it doesn't make me better than anybody. It just means that, like you said before, I've developed these skills already. So if I could show people, like, hey, you it's okay. Sure, it's different. It's out of your norm. It's out of your comfort zone, but it can be done. Not only can you survive, you can actually thrive like this. And it doesn't need to be forever. But you need to learn what is truly essential and what is something you want, what is a luxury. For instance, shoes. I'm known for my barefootness. I'm known for my barefoot running, and okay, I got to shut this computer because I'm distracted by it. I'm known for this barefoot running. It's not a big deal. It is not a big deal at all. But people think it is because they've never done it before. But then I show up at these races and I run twice as far as the average person with no shoes on. So if you think about it, it's not just me, it's the human body is capable of doing this thing. We humans are capable of doing more with less. And we choose to use these extra tools in our lives, like shoes, like cars, like an apartment. So we're so used to it that when it's stripped away, and shoes are a beautiful example because our feet, as I have proven, our feet are capable of running across a 3,000 mile wide continent. I did it. And I can do it again if I wanted to, which I don't because it hurt. Honestly, I felt every step. People think that I'm tough. I'm not. I just really wanted to do it.
Right.
So you'll feel it, but you can do it. But if you try to spend resources that you don't really have to have a luxury that you don't really need, and you're not compensating for that somehow, you're not getting. I mean, it's just basic budgeting. I'm getting a little bit out of whack here. Let me backtrack a bit. Using bare feet and shoes as the metaphor. So we live in a society where we grow up believing that we need shoes. Like you think of running, you think of going to the store. The first thing you imagine when you're getting ready for anything is like you brush your teeth, take a shower, whatever. You put on your shoes. You can't go outside without shoes. You don't go for a run without running shoes. You don't hike without boots. There's a shoe for everything. You have to have the shoe, but that means that you have to pay for the shoe. So that means you have to have an income, which means you have to have a job. If you have a job, you might have to have a uniform. If you have to have a uniform, you have to be able to launder the uniform. If you have to launder the uniform, you have to have an apartment and a closet. Now you got to have a car or be able to pay for public transportation, all to have a shoe. And what else in your life is a shoe? So that's like the philosophical question that led me to do what I did, and that's why I can sleep on a hotel floor because to me sleep is just sleep, and that's how these people need to think right now. They need to I'm talking to the evacuees now. I'm going to switch gears from preaching at the rest of America saying give me money. Now I'm going to presume to preach at these evacuees. I'm going to tell you guys, like, I'm asking everybody else to give you more. I'm going to ask you to take a little bit less. You can sleep on the floor. You can eat canned tuna and dried fruit, and the struggle is in your head, and you can get over that. And as soon as you do, you'll find yourself empowered to start rebuilding. But you got to get over that first hump, and you got to start looking at your situation from a glass half full standpoint. what can I do with what I have here? What more can I do? I've got 2 beds. How can I turn 2 beds into 3? I've got this food here. I got 1 day of food. How can I turn this into 2 days of food? You got to fill up your day somehow, right? This is something that I was doing when I was like voluntarily homeless on the road. I had this extra time. And so instead of like worrying about my situation, I thought about my situation. I problem solved. And that's what you guys, you evacuees, need to be doing right now. You need to be trimming it down. What more can you do with what you have right now? And trust that we are trying to get you more resources. And on the other hand, we need everybody else to send us those resources.
Well, I feel like that could be, I would love to like do another podcast with you about that mindset and like how we can learn to think a little bit more like that. Because I think that that's really interesting. I love what you said there about the shoes. That was really awesome. So I'm going to actually
shoes are tools.
We'll put
tool. Don't be a tool.
What was that?
Shoes are tools. Use the tool. Don't be a tool.
Don't be a tool. All right. Well, that might be like the words of wisdom from. By the way, are you wearing shoes now? Out in the fire? I hope that you're wearing shoes in the fires. Like if you get out
Dude,
there.
I had not worn closed-toed shoes since the first week of January until I went to that evac site last Wednesday, and I had shoes on my feet for like 72 hours straight, just switching out socks like I was at a race. It was weird. I feel bad. I've been forgetting to turn on charity miles, so I don't know exactly how many miles I've been putting in, but I've been walking around a lot. I'm surprised at myself for wearing these things so much.
So you are wearing the shoes. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that you can compromise a little bit there.
Hey, if that's one of the sacrifices I have to make to be able to help people, I'll put on shoes.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Jake, thank you for everything. Really, it's amazing what you're doing out there. I know that you're not the only one. Big thanks to everybody out there who is lending a hand and helping other people. And we do hope that all the people who are evacuees right now, that they're able to get the help that they need. And we're sending our thoughts and our prayers to all of you. Jake, where can people go to find your, is it the bearsoulproject.org or .com?
Yeah. Bare Soul Project.
Soul Project.
Yeah.
.com.
BARESOLEPROJECT.com. We're updating the site like today. We're in the middle of it. But you can go there right now. It's live. On the front page, there's a form. So if you are an evacuee, if you're looking for support, go there, fill out that form. It's going to give your contact information and like where have you been evacuated from? Are you paying for your lodging right now? Basic info to help us start to assess your situation. If you want to support what we're doing, if you want to support evacuees through our efforts, there's also a donate button on there. There's more information coming very soon, probably by the time you post this podcast. When you go to that site, there'll be a lot more information. There is a blog attached to it. I'm working with a new tech team that I've assembled, and they're going to be populating that with more references and information. So bearsoulproject.com for sure.
Excellent. Thank you, Jake, for everything. Thanks to everybody out there for walking or running along with us right now. Every mile matters.